The block diagram of a traditional low-cost triple output power supply is shown here. The power supply control circuitry senses the output voltage of the plus 5 volt output, and if the voltage changes, it will compensate accordingly. The two other outputs, plus and minus, are not part of the control loop and are classed as semi-regulated. Load regulation is the change in output voltage due to variations in the output load. The change on the plus or minus 12 or plus or minus 15 outputs will be much higher, in the order of plus or minus 360 millivolts for the 12 volt output, for example, as these are only semi-regulated. Most manufacturers also stipulate a minimum load condition for the regulation, sometimes as high as 25%. If that minimum load is not applied, the power supply will not be damaged, but the change in output voltage becomes much greater. When the 5 volt load is changed, the control circuitry adjusts the pulse width of the switching section, but this significantly alters the plus or minus 12 or plus or minus 15 outputs. Even with a minimum load of 25%, voltage changes of 700 millivolts can be expected. If the plus 5 volt has a trim potentiometer to adjust the output voltage, then the plus or minus outputs will rise or fall by a similar percentage. For systems that cannot tolerate such large variations, or if minimum loading requirements are not desired, then the CUT75 offers an ideal solution because it uses a two-converter topology. One converter for the main plus 5 volt output, and a second one for the plus or minus 12 or plus or minus 15 volt outputs. The block diagram for the CUT75 is shown here. The result is a dramatic improvement over a one converter solution. Measured line and load regulation on the plus or minus 12 volt outputs is only 300 millivolts for a 0 to 100% load change. The two converter approach also has other benefits. No minimum loading requirements, no cross regulation from plus 5 volts to the plus or minus outputs. The 5 volt can be adjusted up to 5.25 volts to compensate for cable drops without affecting the plus or minus 12 output voltage levels.